Welcome to Offscreen. Let's get cinematic. Still on your couch. I'm Becks Perfect.
And I'm Van Connor. Boom! I like a boom. I've not done a boom in a while.
I know. I quite like it when we mix it up a little bit. Boom to you.
We're switches. That's what it is. We're switches.
We're switches. What have we got on the plate today? We've got 2 big releases on digital. We've obviously got all our Freeview offerings and some streaming as well for you. Should we kick off with something a little bit digital?
Indeed. So Infamous, which this is a wacky one because I saw the poster for this ages ago, and I assumed it was something like Nerve. Remember Nerve with Emma Roberts and Dave Franco, that kind of thing where it's all neon and social network friendly, and it's all about it. And it is to an extent. It is neon and it is about social networking. But I think it was you that pointed it out best to me because you watched it just before I did, and you compared it to Queen and Slim.
Wow,
Queen and Slim with followers.
Yes, I did. I'll leave it for a little bit as to what I said in terms of that comparison. But let's talk about what it actually is all about, because it is quite an interesting concept. It's essentially a modern day Bonnie and Clyde story. So you've got a young Florida woman called Ariel, not Ariel. She's really annoyed that her mum has named her after
She's
the
big
Little
on
Mermaid.
that.
Really big on that. You learn that very early on. She's really bored with her life in Florida, so she basically teams up with her boyfriend, who's an ex-con, to commit crimes and escape their current situation. So they basically start documenting the robberies on social media, or she pushes that a lot more than he does. And the two quickly become sensations on social media, and she finally gets the fame that she's always been craving.
Baby, something like this could make us famous.
No, you can't go posting about our exploits on the internet because the cops are gonna figure us out.
No,
Ariel.
I'm not gonna get us caught, okay? I have an IP blocker, easy. I'll never show our faces. Look, fame equals money equals getting out. How much is what we're trying to do anyway? Dean, I told you I wanted to be famous. And nobody cares about, like, some random girl from the Redneck Riviera, okay? Now a couple of teenagers robbing their way across America, that's worth following.
So I quite like the concept of this, because I always thought that we'd see more films that really push on the kind of social media sensation more than we have. It follows along the lines of films like Mad Love with Drew Barrymore and Chris O'Donnell, and then also, we mentioned Queen and Slim, but also like Thelma and Louise in a way as well. So there's loads of great
films. Actually.
Yeah, there's lots of links to sort of more iconic films that maybe you guys would be familiar with. The problem that I think that this film has is that it is very like most recently Queen and Slim, but it's kind of a poor man's version of it, because
I was calling it Duchess. Was it Duchess and Skinny? That was my one.
Duchess and Skinny. These characters aren't likable in any way, shape, or form.
No, they really aren't, are they?
No, and I think you really need to have a balance of likability. Like in Thelma and Louise, you kind of know they got themselves accidentally into a bad situation. It snowballs, they're not sure how to deal with it, and by the time you get to the ending, you're like, oh my God. With this one, I just didn't care, and I hated Bella Thorne's character all the way through.
That is the interesting thing, because I think there is, that thing I have about Miles Teller, how I just despise Miles Teller. You simply present me with an image of Miles Teller, and I feel my stomach contort and shrivel, like deep inside me, and my guts go with it. I know from experience that there are an awful lot of people, particularly women, who have that with Bella Thorne. And you put her in something, it depends on the character you have her play. If you put her in something like The Duff, where she is sort of the mean girl type, it works. If you have her as the protagonist, Nathan, it really doesn't, because she is in no way likable or engaging in a lead sense. And that's before you get to, I can't even remember, Jake Morley, something like that, the sort of Derek Hough-looking twink they've got in the lead here, who just really has no charisma whatsoever. To say he's in the sort of Daniel Kaluuya, archetypical role in this, it's not engaging at all. They're both very unlikable. And the fact that the script is as weak as it is means that you can't then rely on the casting, which is, that's basically cutting the legs out from under it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the character Dean in this, played by Jake Manley, is just wet.
Jake Manley.
Yes, he's just wet, right? So basically, Bella Thorne's character, Ariel, is driving this all the way through for her own fame. And not once does he kind of really with any gusto go, we've gone too far, we need to stop. And he never puts his foot down. And this is the problem.
He really doesn't. He doesn't get to do that voice of reason. As you can hear in the clip, he challenges the social media aspect of it, but not the actual thing they're doing. And that's before you get to all the other things in this. I mean, okay, a couple of weird observations I made from this one. First of all, she's like a white trash waitress, slash high school student living in poverty in Florida. How does she afford an iPhone? That's my first question.
Not only an iPhone, pristine Converse high tops as well, which really annoys me.
The other thing is, and I'm gonna credit vaping with this. When did teen actors stop knowing how to smoke? Because it's very prevalent in this movie.
Look, I think when I say it's going to divide audiences, I think there is a teen audience for this. I think they're like a slightly aspirational, in the wrong direction, like thrills and spills type audience for this. Anyone with a little bit of sense to them will see the really weak parts of this film pretty early on, like the lack of empathy, the scripting being really predictable, and ultimately it builds up to nothing.
Well, so I mean, it's one of those that begins sort of in media res, opens and closes with the same kind of scene. Everything happens, sort of bookends everything. I will give it credit because I do think it's quite well shot by Joshua Caldwell. It's very evocative, I think, of Spring Breakers at times, and I think that might be the Florida setting. It's very much going for that same tone that Harmony Korine had in Spring Breakers, and there are moments of flourishes, like with the comments on social media that flash across the screen, things like that are done very bombastically, and I think work very well. And that is, I think, again, a credit to something more like Spring Breakers than the material you've got here. I don't know. I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was anything much. I mean, I did credit it down as I literally wrote it down as fine, but it's Queen and Slim for sort of idiotic, social media obsessed white teenagers.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'd probably give it about one thumb, to be honest.
One thumb. I think it's a one-thummer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Right, let's move on then. So, Proxima, you can talk to me all about this because I was so scarred by Infamous that I didn't manage to watch this one.
Right, so Proxima, new movie from, and I'm very happy because I did not know this was her until I sat down to watch it, Alice Vinocourt, who brought us Disorder a couple of years ago with Matthias Schoenaerts, which I was a huge fan of. I'm so happy to see her name on this. This is not so much based on a specific true story, I think, so much as based on the abstract reality, which is of female astronauts and the relationship they have with their children, particularly their daughters, as they, enroll in this program that isolates them and takes them, away for a significant amount of time. Ava Green is Sarah. She is a French astronaut who is sort of our protagonist here. It's about her strained relationship with her young daughter. She's separated from her father, from the kid's father, and she goes into the program. She's under the tutelage of mission leader, I think he's Mike, played by Matt Dillon, who's still acting. Remember Matt Dillon?
Wow, gosh.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him since You, Me and Dupree in 2006, but he's still out there.
He's amazing. He's one of those. He was that 80s, early 90s heartthrob that you kind of look back and you kind of go, really?
Yeah. Well, for me now, I look at him and just think, oh, it's Johnny Drama's brother. Hasn't aged a day. But, it's all about the strain that this program puts on the relationship she has with her daughter, and also just the logistics and the difficulties of being a female astronaut.
So, you ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
I looked at your schedule. I think you ought to ask him to lighten your load.
Lighten it? Why lighten it?
I'm just saying for your sake, and I'm also thinking about Jürgen.
What do you mean?
Well, maybe you don't have to do absolutely everything.
Why not?
I'm just saying it might be in your best interest and in the best interest of all of us if you ask for a lighter prep schedule. It's not a reflection on your core skills.
Okay, Mike. Can we move on?
Sorry, but what do you know about my core skills?
I liked a lot about this, I gotta admit.
Do you know what I was just thinking? How much does Josh Brolin sound like Matt Dillon?
I don't know. I think Josh Brolin's a lot smoother both physically and stylistically than Matt Dillon is. Funny story, Matt Dillon was once my pick, once upon a time, for who would be my potential casting, my sort of dream casting for Iron Man. And yeah, that kind of tells you how off the mark I was on that one. But this is great. This is a really solid film. This is an 8 out of 10, 2 thumbs up from me. I think Vinokur shoots the hell out of it. It's either Winokur or Vinokur. I go with Vinokur. Shoots the hell out of it. It won't be everyone's cup of tea for reasons I'll get to in a moment, but it's really soulful. It's really riveting. It's a very hefty drama. It's got heft, it's got substance, and it's all anchored with this blinding turn from Ava Green. It works not by subverting the expectations of its story, because it's quite nuts and bolts in its story. You know it's going to go from A to B to C. It's going to have this specific ending and so forth. But it works by just allowing the emotional heart of that story just sort of room to sort of breathe and fully unfold, and for you to actually explore the toll this takes. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of practical logistics about being a female astronaut that I simply have never considered. I thought this was really great. I genuinely thought this was a brilliant film. Well directed, well acted, well staged, well executed. Frankly, well worth anyone's time.
So that is your 2 on digital offerings for this week. We've got one which will, I suppose, whet the palates for a teenage audience, and another one that's very much more adult and intellectual. So we'll move swiftly on after this. Coming up, we've got your movies on TV.
Welcome back to Off Screen, and as Becks said, it's time for some movies on TV, specifically movies on Freeview, because we don't like to exclude those who like to subscribe to premium channels. We're the great equalizer. We like everyone to be comfy on the same level couch. So let's talk about Saturday Night then, Becks, one that I know you and I have very fond memories of. We had a great time watching this. We had a great time watching the sequel, I think, a year or 2 later as well. It is on Film 4, Saturday night, 9 p.m, prime slot. It is, of course, Happy Death Day. It's Groundhog Day with a serial killer. What's not to love?
This is kind of Scream meets Groundhog Day. Like, literally.
It really is. Yeah.
So it's about a girl who basically, she is at college. Is it her birthday? I can't quite remember. Or is that the second?
It is her birthday. And I think is the second one the day after her birthday. Is that how it works?
It's something like that. But she essentially has a Groundhog Day moment where she just keeps waking up. There's a killer on the loose. She has to kind of work out how to defeat this killer. And it just plays the same scene over and over again. And what I love about it is you get to see her be even more angry every time it plays out.
Look, I know this isn't going to make any sense, but I have already lived through this day. Twice.
Tree,
No, believe me, I know it sounds totally crazy, but this is happening to me, I swear to God.
Tree, I'm sure it feels like you're like...
Okay, you made me a cupcake. For my birthday, right? You're about to give it to me, and then later on tonight there's a surprise party.
Who told you? Was it back?
No, nobody told me. That's what I mean. Don't you see? I know what is going to happen before it happens. Lori, somebody's gonna kill me tonight.
Do you remember her character's name, or did you pick it up in that clip? Because it's the one weird detail I always remember about this movie.
No, I didn't. No.
Her name is Tree. Tree Geldman.
Yes, now you say it. Who's called Tree? It's weird.
It's so bizarre, isn't it? Also, I will admit that I have a huge thing for Jessica Roth in this movie. Oh, God. Anyway, so neither here nor there.
Is Jessica Roth?
Jessica Roth is in fact the lead.
I'm intrigued. I think she's actually really, really good in this. She plays it really well. What else has she done?
Well, she's not really done an awful lot. I think she was one of Emma Stone's best besties, sort of like one of the background characters in La La Land. But she has recently turned up in the straight-to-streaming remake of Valley Girl. I think that's on Netflix, maybe. So she's taken the lead in there. Which is perfect casting when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. But do you know what? She's better. She should be doing more mainstream stuff. She proved herself in this and also the sequel. Look, it's a good slasher film. It's got some really funny moments. You kind of see her, as I alluded to when we were sort of setting the scene for this, that she kind of goes from despair through to, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And
It's when she goes really comedic in both films that the real gold comes out, because the film does take a swivel in both cases, as all Groundhog Day kind of movies always have to. In a sense, they have to have a bit where you embrace the absurdly comedic element of it. In both films, that's the case, but doing it with a slasher movie setup is just absolute gold, and she's a great comedic performer as well.
Yeah, she really is. So there we go. That's your Saturday night. That's Happy Death Day. Don't be put off by the title, because I think the title, you can look at it and go, that sounds rubbish. It's not. It's a really, really fun film to watch. If you do like the slasher genre and you enjoy Groundhog Day, this is the perfect combination. So that's Film 4, 9 p.m. Saturday. Moving on to Sunday, we have Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, ITV2, 6:30 p.m. This is kind of the new direction for Jurassic Park in general, isn't it?
Yes, as it is. The park is gone, I believe is the tagline this time along. And, of course, the events of this film we're going to see play out, the result of which we're going to see play out in the currently filming Jurassic World Dominion, which I think was the first production to resume post-COVID. Well, not post-COVID, but to resume after sort of the lockdown and everything. This is, of course, the second of the new trilogy of the Jurassic Park series, Jurassic World. This reunites Bryce Dallas Howard's character of Claire Dearing with Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt, who are summoned by a reclusive billionaire, the previously unmentioned partner of Richard Attenborough's John Hammond, to go to Jurassic Park, to go to Jurassic World on Ila Sorna and help liberate the dinosaurs, because it turns out they just really didn't follow through on the planning permission for Jurassic Park, and they built the damn thing on top of what turns out to be an active volcano. And this sets off a series of events that happen to play into the hands of a series of evil, megalomaniacal, money-hungry corporate types who, not a word, but it is a word, but it's a tough word, and who want the dinosaurs for their own ends.
Lockwood's little flunky called me. Rescue op. Save the dinosaurs from an island that's about to explode. What could go wrong?
I'm going.
Don't.
I don't have a choice.
What? Of course you have a choice.
So what, I should just build my own cabin, play pool, and drink beer all day while these dinosaurs go extinct?
Yeah. I like pool.
Blue is alive.
Jesus, Claire.
You raised her, Owen. You spent years of your life working with her. You're just gonna let her die?
Well, yeah.
Come on, you're a better man than you think you are.
You should write fortune cookies.
It's a terrible line of dialogue. You should write fortune cookies.
So cliche. Chris Pratt, he's a raptor trainer in this, isn't he?
Yes, Owen Grady is, I believe, a former Navy SEAL and I think at one point dolphin trainer, I think it comes up as. Very weird story. Very, very weird story, this one. Can't figure that one out. I think because when they get to this second one, they start to play up exactly how involved Chris Pratt's character is in the development of Jurassic World. It doesn't make a whole heap of sense, but it's a fun movie. J.A. Bayona, who took over directing this one from Colin Trevorrow, who is back to direct the next one, obviously. But J.A. Bayona, who comes from, sort of Spanish language horror, you do get to see that played out with, CGI dinosaurs and velociraptors and indoraptors, and it's a good time. The gothic horror in the second half of the film, I think, is better than the retread that is the first half. But there's a lot to like in this film, I think. It's like a slightly better version of The Lost World.
Yeah, and I did enjoy it. I think I liked the direction it was going in, and you needed something new as well in order to kind of maintain the franchise. So look, guys, if you love dinosaurs and you didn't go to the drive-in cinema to see the original like me, then this might be a healthy alternative for you. So that is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. That's on ITV2 at 6:30 p.m.
So over to Monday night then. This is to kick off your next week. This is one that I think we both love quite dearly. Funny story with this. We can never play the clip that everyone asks us to, so please don't tweet, don't email. We already thought about it. We would have played the clip if, for language reasons, we could have. We can't use the Jason Statham clip from Spy, which is on Film 4 Monday night at 9 p.m. We all want to use the Jason Statham clip, yes, but we can't. This is, of of course, the story of a sort of dowdy admin type from the CIA, NSA, CIA, something like that.
Yeah, CIA.
Played by Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
Who is sent on a mission when the identities of all other spies are compromised, and she's always wanted to be a field agent. She's completely ill-equipped to do so, and it's all about the effort she puts into to stop a maniacal supervillain played by Rose Byrne from getting her hands on, I think, a nuclear warhead.
The bottom line is, Raina Boyanov is about to sell a small-scale tactical nuclear weapon to a terrorist organization, and we don't know where she or the bomb is. Now, fortunately, our analyst Susan Cooper found a lead.
I told you to send me in there instead of Fine, and you didn't. And now Fine's dead. I'm going to in.
You can't.
Here's what we do. I go into the face-off machine, get a whole new face.
Do you have quarters? Because it costs 50 cents.
What, got to pay?
No, because it doesn't exist.
You look at the cast list on this. This is quite incredible for this film. Okay, so
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, you've obviously got Melissa McCarthy. You've obviously got Jason Statham in there as well. Rose Byrne, as you mentioned, but you've also got Jude Law, Miranda Hart, Marina Baccarin, who is from I think she's from Homeland. I remember her.
Miranda Baccarin, she was Gray's wife in Homeland. She is Commissioner Gordon's girlfriend, I think, in Batman. She is, most importantly to me, Inara from Serenity as well.
Oh, yeah,
kind of a biggie. But she's the sort of, isn't she sort of the it girl in this? I should point out as well, I said that we couldn't use the Jason Statham. I did mean the one where he talks about, driving off a cliff whilst on fire with his eyeball hanging out like that. I didn't realise we had the face-off clip actually to hand, so my bad.
Brilliant. You've also got Alison Janney in this as well. So look, it's an all-star. Yeah, she's brilliant, and you heard that, and that's what just tricked me into kind of go, I need to kind of find out exactly who's in this cast, because it's brilliant. And do you know what? It's one of those things. It's a Paul Feig film. It's got all the elements. If you enjoy Paul Feig's work, that kind of work together. Melissa McCarthy doing her thing really well. She's been a bit hit or miss of late, but actually this one has really worked for her. So Spy is a good, solid watch for your weekend. Welcome back to Off Screen. We are keeping you on your couch with even more movies. And I'm telling you what, this next block of movies you are going to love us for, because they are excellent and they are some of mine and Van's favourite. I think I'm topping and tailing it with my two favourite films. And Van's got the middle two. So we're going to kick off with End of Days. This is on ITV4, 10 p.m. This is an amazing film with an amazing cast. So this has got Arnie, first and foremost, need I say more? We've got Gabriel Byrne, and we've got Robin Tunney as well from The Craft. Now, this story is all about the devil. Yes, you thought of it. Yes, I'm saying it's correct. It is the devil who crashes a New Year's party in New York, and he basically inhabits a man's body, and that man looks like Gabriel Byrne. And he searches essentially for his bride, who is this woman called Christine York. She's never always been, that normal, but there's something outer-worldly for her. But he basically wants her to bear his child to let him destroy the world, and it's up to essentially like a security guard guy to protect her.
Let me tell you something about him. He is the biggest underachiever of all time. He's just a good publicist, that's all. Something good happens, it's his will. Something bad happens, he moves in mysterious ways. You take that overblown press kit they call the Bible, you look for the answer in there. What did they tell you? It happens. Please. He treated you like garbage, you walked away. I'm not the bad guy.
What about the end of days?
Think of it as a new beginning. A change of management. And you'll be right there with me on the ground floor. It will be so cool.
Okay, a couple of things about this movie that I love. First of all, this was released, as you pointed out, was at the end of November 1999. The movie is set in the couple of days leading up to the millennium, so the bulk of the action takes place on December 31st, 1999. This movie was released and positioned as a millennium blockbuster. I don't know if you remember, we went through a brief period where we had a lot of millennium movies. We had a Bond movie that was supposed to tie into the millennium, and then they changed it out for The World Is Not Enough. Christine York, Christ in New York. Love that. Arnie's name in this is incredibly lacking in subtlety, given the biblical connotation. His name is Jericho Kane. I mean, good God. And of course, Kevin Pollak.
Written all over it, hasn't it?
Oh, it really does. It's directed by Peter Hyams, who gave us Time Cop. That's something worth noting as well. So it's got an action pedigree in there. Some really great set pieces in this. Kevin Pollak and CCH Pounder as sort of sidekicks on Arnie's side. What's his name? Miranda Margolis, I think, as the sort of nursemaid. And just a really great movie. And of course, it left me with the obvious questions. First of all, how had Guns N' Roses come to suck that badly by 1999? And also, how big are Arnie's wrists that he can fit 2 full-size Glock handguns up inside each sleeve? It is the most bizarre thing. Like I just pointed out to you, have you ever seen the size of a Glock handgun? They're enormous.
They really are.
Great movie, worth checking out completely.
Yeah.
Some really iconic visuals in it as well, actually.
So Gabriel Byrne, amazing villain in this. There's something very attractive about him at the same time as him being the devil. It's so weird. Like, I can't even describe it. Anyway, there is a very short review of this from the New York Times, and I think this sums up this movie really well. It's ex-cop protects Satan's unwilling bride, blood-soaked and ridiculous. That's all you need to know. It's worth your time since 1999 is all I'm going to say. This is the movie you can always revisit.
You could genuinely, reductively refer to this as it's Terminator with Satan.
Yeah,
which kind of works. Really, it's protect the girl from the evil monster thing. In this case, not a robot. It's Satan himself. But a great movie. Definitely want to check.
Yes,
it out.
definitely.
Keeping with the action vibe, though, going to take you over to ITV4 on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. We've talked about this movie briefly in the past. One of my favourite actions of the early 90s. It's 1993's Passenger 57, starring none other than Wesley Snipes. It is a hell of a ride, this one. He is John Cutter. He is an airline security expert who specialises in counter-terrorism. Happens to be a passenger on a plane on which they are transporting a federal prisoner who happens to be a mass murderer named Charles Rain. Said murderer gets his flunkies in as the staff, to pose as the staff, which includes Elizabeth Hurley, incidentally. So we get evil Liz Hurley in her sort of prime modelling years in this as well. All hell breaks loose. He escapes, takes the plane hostage, and it's up to John Cutter to save the day.
Plan not working out the way you wanted?
Don't flatter yourself, Cutter. You prevented nothing. Although it seems I may have underestimated you.
Dumping the fuel was quite ingenious. At least Mr. Douglas's body won't have so far to fall now.
Well, maybe Vincent could hitch a ride with him on his way down. Charlie, I'm a little surprised at you. Didn't your father ever teach you never send a boy to do a man's job?
Speaking of boys, our stewardess friend must be feeling particularly unsatisfied.
Charlie, you ever play roulette?
On occasion.
Well, let me give you a word of advice. Always bet on black.
That is one of my favourite payoff lines of the 90s, always bet on black. Strangely, despite the fact that they reference Passenger 57 in the first Bad Boys movie, they don't use that line, which seems like a missed opportunity to me.
I
great
agree.
cast for this one. Tom Sizemore's in there, Bruce Payne, Bruce Greenwood, so 2 Bruces for the price of 1. A great ride. Do see it. If you've never seen Passenger 57, this was the height of the Die Hard in a ... trend. So do see this one. This is one of the better ones. Great vehicle for Wesley Snipes. I think this was his follow-up release to Demolition Man. I think he did Demolition Man and then this. So great pairing for him.
Such a heyday.
Oh, yeah.
Right, let's move on to Thursday for you. We've got, actually one of both mine and Van's favourite films. This is Gone Girl. It's on 4/7 at 9 p.m. The David Fincher masterpiece, I'd almost describe it. It stars Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. It basically tells the tale of a guy called Nick Dunn who discovers that his wife is missing. There's a disappearance and the media is swarming and focusing on him on the day of their 5th wedding anniversary.
Speaking of which, Amy's blood type.
God, I don't know. I have to look it up at the house.
You don't know if she has friends, you don't know what she does all day, and you don't know your wife's blood type.
Sure y'all are married?
I maybe it's type O.
Where are her folks? New York?
Yeah.
Can they get here in time for this press conference tomorrow?
Tomorrow? I have no idea. I haven't talked to them.
You haven't called your wife's parents
I mean,
yet?
you can't get a signal in this building. I've been in here talking to you.
Well, call them, please, Nick, now.
Fine.
Should I know my wife's blood type?
How this film didn't send Rosamund Pike stratospheric, I will never understand. This is probably one of her finest performances, and also Ben Affleck as well. He's brilliant in this. It's also the film that has Neil Patrick Harris in it. It launches Emily Ratajkowski as well, beyond a Robin Thicke video.
Wait, you mean without Gone Girl, we wouldn't have the delight of the Entourage movie? Perish the thought, Rebecca.
Perish the thought. But do you know what? This is, as you probably all know, it's based on the brilliant novel by Gillian Flynn,
isn't it?
I read the novel before I watched this movie, and I have to say the adaptation is phenomenal. There's a slight change towards the end, but only minor, and works well for cinematic reasons for that change to happen. But overall, it plays out, because you essentially, chapter by chapter, as you're reading it, it's like flashback versus modern day, and it's kind of works in that way, and it does it brilliantly on screen as well. I love this movie and implore you all to go and watch it. It is literally one of David Fincher's finest.
I, too, am a fan of that particular work of cinema. On to Friday, then. One that I know you're a fan of. So, on BBC One, 10:45, what have we got, Miss Perfect?
Wow, we have got Interview with the Vampire. Now, this, I can't believe was out in 1995. This is dating me. This is...
it was even longer than that. Wow.
No,
First of all, we're getting on in years. That's what it is.
I know. Let's not tell anyone. Right, so what I'm going to tell you about it is basically the storyline. So this is what you do is you enter this film with a journalist played by Christian Slater, who's interviewing a vampire called Lestat, who is probably one of the world's oldest vampires, and he talks about how he turned a guy called Louis into a vampire as well, and their sort of I suppose it's their sort of exploits through a plague-ridden London at the time. It's bonkers, but brilliant.
So, what do? I'm a vampire. That's something I haven't heard before. You mean this literally, I take it? Absolutely. I was waiting for you in that alleyway. Watching you, watching me. And then you began to speak. What a lucky break for me. Perhaps lucky for both of us. You said you were waiting for me. What were you gonna do? Kill me, drink my blood, all that stuff? Yes. But you needn't be concerned with that now.
This marked one of the entries into what I describe as Brad Pitt's 1990s period of sex voice performances. Yeah. As in, every line is delivered with this subtlety and that voice. Yeah. Also, the voice Brad Pitt uses in Meet Joe Black. It's his sex voice. And that's basically how I describe this whole thing. It is a very sexy movie, though, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. It makes vampires sexy in almost a traditional way. So it's not having like the kind of the Twilight feel to it. There's nothing about that. It's a period drama with vampires, and it follows the exploits. It's got Tandy Newton in there. It's got it's got the debut from Kristen Dunst in here. You get amazing sort of scenes of France, of the UK, of south of Southern America as well. There's loads.
Louisiana kind of a place.
Yeah,
isn't it?
you kind of get. There's a lot going on in this movie.
And let's not bury the lead, of course, which is that my boy Christian Slater, as you could hear in the clip there, he's front and centre in this one. I miss Christian Slater in movies.
Do you know what? He was my poster boy in the 90s. I had a massive crush on Christian Slater. I watched everything from like Pump Up the Volume to Heathers to this. He was my go-to guy, and I loved him for this. And actually, it's probably the reason why I first watched Interview with the Vampire. But notoriously, Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise didn't really get along during filming for this. But don't worry about that, because you actually do see the chemistry there is still brilliant. So ever remaining.
There's a lot of homoerotically charged interplay, I think, between them. Isn't there? There is a sort of a sadosexual kind of a mechanism going on between them, I think.
Yeah, there is. And also, you know what? I think Tom Cruise is allowed to be in this film out there. You know, he's brash and bold in this, where you've got Brad Pitt being quite reserved. And I think that contrast works really well. So look, BBC One, 10:45 p.m. on your Friday night. Interview with the Vampire is an absolute classic. I would encourage you to watch this from 1995, the golden year of movies. And I think you'll have a really, really good time.
Welcome back to Off Screen for one last ride, surfing that old sofa. So, let's go with that. Well, we've not got much on the way of DVD this week, unless you want the complete series of Orange is the New Black, which has been released as a box set, I'm reliably informed. So, I'll say we just take it to the streams. What do you think, Becks?
Oh, yes, and there's plenty of offerings on the streams from actually our favourite time period, in fact, isn't it? The 90s.
We should just call this 90s screen, shouldn't we,
I'm happy to do that. I could talk for days. We've got coming out on streaming on Netflix from Saturday, 1st of August. We have Out of Sight. I know you are desperate to talk about this. And also, then we've got The Mask. So let's talk about Out of Sight first.
Well, Out of Sight is a film that has a special place in my heart. It is. It was for me. This was peak Clooney. This was peak Clooney around this time because we got like From Dusk Till Dawn, and then within a year we had this, and we had The Peacemaker somewhere in between as well, which was the very first DreamWorks movie, incidentally. And Out of Sight is the movie is the reason I still carry a Zippo lighter every day to this day, because I just fell in love with this character of Jack Foley as played by George Clooney, who is this incredibly slick, gentlemanly bank robber who falls in love, like love at first sight, with the federal marshal tasked with arresting him. She is played by a peak of hotness J-Lo, and it's all about the sort of chemistry between them, how they can't resist one another, and the sort of cat and mouse game that they play, detective, fugitive, and all the magic that comes in between. But I tell you what, it's all about the Cloontang, man.
How can I help you, sir?
Rita, see the man talking to your bank manager has his case open?
Oh, that's Mr. Gwendon, one of our assistant managers. Our manager is Mr. Schoen, but he's not in today.
But you see the man with the briefcase?
Yes?
That's my partner. He has a gun in there. And if you don't do exactly what I tell you, or if you give me any kind of a problem at all, I'm going to look over at my partner and he's going to shoot your Mr. Gwendon between the eyes. All right, now take one of those big envelopes and put as many hundreds, 50s, and 20s as you can pack into it. Nothing with bank straps or rubber bands. I don't want any die packs. I don't want any bait money. Start with the second drawer and then the one over there underneath the money counter. Okay. It's okay. Come on, Loretta. The key's right there next to you. There you go.
He's so cool in this. It's so hard to resist George Clooney in this movie.
He is so cool, and this is so perfectly cast for him, because who does suave and relatable and just, magnetizing to watch on screen? I hate to say it, I did interview George Clooney once, and I was slightly disappointed in real life. I just want to keep him on the screen. Yeah.
I interviewed him. I thought he was a delight.
Oh, no. He was delightful, but I think my sort of, oh my God, George Clooney sort of went a little bit when he's in real life.
Oh, I absolutely had mine. I was like, dude, I will do anything you ask of me. Just ask me. I don't even lean that way, but I will. But Out of Sight, which got a great supporting cast as well. I think Ving Rhames is in there. Michael Keaton is in there as well. In a role, incidentally, Michael Keaton's role in this crosses over with Jackie Brown, which was around about the same time. Because both of these are based on Elmore Leonard novels. So what they did was Quentin Tarantino and Steven Soderbergh, between them, sort of agreed a kind of shared universe. Just never carried on in any other form. But that character, I think he's an FBI agent played by Michael Keaton, crosses over from one to the other as well.
Brilliant. Good bit of film knowledge there. Like it. Okay, so that is Out of Sight. If you've never seen that before, it's an absolute classic. You should watch it. The chemistry is unreal between Clooney and J-Lo, so definitely worth a watch. Now, we also mentioned The Mask is coming out on Netflix as well. I mean, talk about another classic. This is Jim Carrey in his heyday.
Oh, yes, this was Jim Carrey. I think this was the big role. This was the sort of debut, I think, for Cameron Diaz as well, who was a model at that time, like a 22-year-old model. And I think who I still think is one of the ultimate movie pin-ups of the 90s, her in this movie in the red dress. I think it's such an iconic image. But of course, the more iconic image is Jim Carrey with the green rubber face, which is just unforgettable, the big plastic teeth. And I'm still annoyed that I never got one of those masks in the 90s. I always wanted one. But the story of Stanley Ipkiss, the downtrodden bank teller who finds the wooden mask of Loki, the Norse god of mischief, which when you put it on at night takes you over and you become the embodiment of a non-Marvel Loki, like the actual original god of mischief Loki, that leads him into trouble with the mob, which doesn't sound like the conventional fodder for a comedy, but you know what? Jim Carrey pulled it off, and this was absolutely the breakout role. Lots of debts owed to Looney Tunes, works with Tex Avery, things like that. Just really grand, showed off CGI in a way that we had not seen at that point in the 90s, fusing CGI with actual live-action attempts at cartoonishness that just nobody had ever seen. And I think a lot of the success of that is down to just how naturally animated Jim Carrey was, and always shall be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The interesting thing about this, now that it's coming out on Netflix, is going to be how it dates as a movie, because a lot of this was groundbreaking for its time, but 25, 30 years on, how are we going to look at it on the small screen? Because a lot of us won't have seen it for that amount of time.
Well, that's the thing as well, because I mean, obviously it was a huge hit. It did find the bulk of its audience on video, so it's staggering actually how many of us are sort of accustomed to seeing it on the small screen. I must have watched it 1,000 times on VHS over the early years, and I got it on DVD, and I watched it on Amazon. I think it was on Amazon Prime up until a year or two ago, and I remember watching it on there with sort of relatively recent eyes and thinking, actually, this holds up. This does hold up. I mean, Cameron Diaz is an entirely different human in that movie to what we know her as otherwise, but other than that, it holds up.
Listen, so there we go, guys. We've kicked off our streaming section with some 90s classics there. So Out of Sight and The Mask on Netflix. But we've also got, coming out on Netflix from Sunday, in fact, is The Peanut Butter Falcon. Now, I've not caught this one yet, Van, but I've heard really positive things about this movie.
I think we reviewed it when it was out on theatrical. This stars Shia LaBeouf and, in a supporting role, Dakota Johnson as well. Shia LaBeouf is a sort of wayward drifter type who befriends a young boy with, I think he has Down syndrome, and he's sort of run away to go and try out to be a wrestler, and Shia LaBeouf escorts him on his journey. They're being pursued by, I think it's Dakota Johnson, and social services kind of a thing, and it is this sort of bonding exercise, but it's done in this sort of old school, almost Huck Finn kind of a way, like they're on a raft at points, things like that. And there's a lot of of the Huckleberry Finn influence in there, but with a sort of a contemporary wrestling infused edge to it. Really lovely drama, really sweet, very soulfully acted. I thought Shia LaBeouf was great in it, which is not a sentence I get to say that often, surprisingly, despite the fact that he is doing more and more interesting films of late. I would definitely check The Peanut Butter Falcon out. It's on Netflix from Sunday the 2nd, this coming Sunday. Check this out. Sunday is the perfect day to have this out because it's a great Sunday afternoon film. Just sort of sit with the family and watch a nice, touching drama. It absolutely, look no further. This is it.
Do you know what I think? Also, I think when Shia LaBeouf keeps it simple, I think he does it really well, and that's the thing. And I'd like to say that he does that on this. So that is The Peanut Butter Falcon. That is on Netflix from Sunday for you. And then looking ahead to the following week, we've got a film called Upgrade, which is also on Netflix. Netflix is turning out some real corkers at the moment. This is from Friday, August the 7th. Tell us about this one, Van.
Did you not get to review this when it was out on theatrical? Because I think you really missed out on something if you didn't.
No, I didn't, actually. Upgrade, no, not heard of it.
So this was Lee Whannell's last film before he did The Invisible Man. This stars Logan Marshall Green and is best described as what would happen if you actually did a good remake of RoboCop, rather than the crap remake of RoboCop that we actually got 6 years ago. I mean, how you have a movie with both Gary Oldman and Michael Keaton in and make it suck is beyond me. But never mind. Okay, so this is the story of, I think he's a mechanic played by Logan Marshall Green. Happens to be the spitting image of Tom Hardy. And literally, he's like the American Tom Hardy, slightly cleaner cut in an Americanish way. He and his wife are involved in what seems to be an intentional driverless car accident. He is paralyzed, his wife is dead, and he is offered the chance to basically move again of his own accord using an experimental nanotechnology known as STEM. STEM, however, has a mind of its own, an artificial intelligence that, if you allow it to, can take your body over and take control and do whatever you want it to. And he employs STEM to utilize his skills to hunt down those responsible for murdering, what he believes is murdering his wife. And if you want a sample of just roughly how nasty and grisly and horrifying this gets, look no further.
Tell me where they are.
STEM, what do I do?
Use the knife.
I can't do it.
I can do it for you. You don't even have to look.
Okay, do it. You have my permission.
Who are you talking to? You're crazy. No.
Stem's using his Brad Pitt sex voice there. See, that's what that is.
I just had a quick look to see if I've seen this. I don't know how I've missed it. It was only 2018 that it came out.
It was. Do watch this. You will have such a blast with this. I say it's from Lee Whannell, who most recently brought us The Invisible Man. It's going to be doing The Wolfman next with Ryan Gosling as well, and of course comes from Saw, Insidious, Sinister, that kind of thing. This is a really, really great little sort of low, like micro-budget sci-fi action thriller with a sort of horror-like edge. A lot of props, though, go to Logan Marshall Green for the physicality he brings to this and the style that Lee Whannell sort of injects into how this has been filmed. There are some fight sequences in this that you genuinely will not believe. Really great stuff. Cannot recommend this highly enough. Netflix from Friday next week. Check this out. It is so much nasty fun.
Great. Well, there we go. What a way to end this week's show. So you've got great selections there on your digital platforms, on your free views, and also on your streaming as well. So that wraps things up for another week on the couch for both Van and myself. We'll be back again next week with more cinematic goodness for you all. But for now, I've been Becks Perfect.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.